Hello and welcome to part 7 of the Adobe Photoshop tutorial series. I think this is going to be the last one for now unless something else presents itself. What I'm going to be talking to you today is a few more of the tools over here on the toolbar here, as well as like the gradient, the gradient tool and the shape tool over here. We're going to start off with the shape tool over here. It says rectangular tool when you scroll over it, but it's actually a shape tool because you have a whole lot of different options you can make, like a hexagon or different custom shapes as well. But what we're going to do right now is I'm just going to draw a simple black rectangle right here. Okay. Now you can see in your layers palette, it's come up with a new layer, and it's called shape. And this is different than something else that you might have in Photoshop by the fact that this rectangle doesn't matter if you were to shrink it down and enlarge it. It's always going to be perfect because it is actually made up of it's a real box in Photoshop. Here, I'm going to explain. What happens if I were to take this original guy here and I'm going to cut him out? All right, we've got a selection tool here. I'm going to copy him, Control C, and Control V to paste him back in. I've got another little layer here. What would happen if I were to shrink him down? Let's do it. I'm going to shrink him down. And what I'm doing is I am removing a whole lot of information from him. Because I'm actually, not only am I shrinking him down, but when you zoom in, like, he's lost a lot of information. Like, he's really pixelated, right? Well, what happens when I want to blow him back up? If I blow him back up, let's zoom back out, Control 0. If I blow him back up, but I've taken away all this information, you know what's going to happen? It's going to look gross like this. This is because I've shrunk it down and I've taken pixels out. Once you take pixels out, you can't add them back in again. Make sure you're aware of that when you're adding images to your file. Whenever you reduce them and then you enlarge them, you're really taking away information. So with the nice thing about the shape tool here, and I've got the shape tool, if I want to bring him down, make him small, and then I make him large again, it's always going to be perfect. I can blow this up to the size of a building. It's going to be perfect. Okay. So where this is useful for you in the assignment that you're doing for me, possibly like the tabloid assignment or the DVD cover assignment, if you have text that you need to input and you're worried that it's not going to show up very well, then you might want to draw a box and put your text on. For example, if I were to type something in, and we don't want to do it at 300 point type, let's try it at 118. And I'm just going to start typing a bunch of gobbledygook. Okay. Now this type isn't necessarily the easiest to read right now, especially when I'm going over this white line. All right. You want to have things in a good areas of contrast. I've got this type in white. It'd probably be able to read it well down here, but not up so much up in here, and definitely not over top of this white stripe. But then maybe we think that this is the best spot for the type itself. If I were to put in this black box right here, this would certainly help me read the type a little bit better. Okay, just adding in a box. And you can also manipulate the box now. The box doesn't have to be at 100% black. We can tone that box back to have it just have it a little darker. That way you can see what's going on. You can still see that there's a motorcycle there. You can still see that he's on the road, and you can still see the white line, but you've darkened that area, or you've made it a color, more of a solid color, so that way there's lots of contrast between your type and the background. So you get the best of both worlds here. You have legibility, and you can still see what's going on. Other stuff that you can do, that's enough for that. I'm just going to quickly talk about the gradient tool. The gradient tool is pretty fun and it certainly helps us when we want to create a lot of cool effects. I'm just going to put that in there, and actually I think I want to have the zoom tool. What the gradient tool does is that if you were to create a new layer, and we're going to call that layer gradient. And where is my layer? I don't see it here. There it is. Let's push it up here. What this does is you can see this is a gradient from white to black. If I were to draw this, if I were to drag this, I'm going to start from this point, and I'm going to hold down my mouse, and I'm going to drag it from the left of the screen to the right of the screen. What we've done is we've just created a gradient going from the left to the right. The same goes if I were to drag it from the right to the left. Starts out with the white and goes to the dark. You can make all sorts of different variations. Photoshop also has a different variety of canned blends that you can use. Say if I wanted to have it going from the foreground color to transparent, I can also do that. Here, I'm just going to quickly erase that. There we go. Say if I wanted to have this guy fading off into the black at the top there, what I would do is I would just have my gradient, and you can see it's going to fade from black to transparent. This also helps the guy pop out. And again, we can apply all sorts of neat effects to it. Oh, that's the wrong one. Linear dodge, or here, let's change the color of it. Let's change it to red. All right, and so we can, or to overlay, you can add all sorts of neat things. You can also combine them. You can have, you can see how it turned out here. There's a blend there and a blend there. What we can also do is you can have your, if you want to get really funky here, we've got the rainbow one. And if you were to have your rainbow go from one side, you can see how I've overlaid it here. And it's just made a neat effect. We've added a lot of color to the design. There's also, you can see that's just the linear gradient. You can also do a radial gradient, like that. You can do, I forget what that one's called, a angle gradient, like so. You can see it's rendering right now. Oh yeah, it's got that spiral thing. Or a diamond, a couple different. So you can really have some fun with it. If I delete that guy, you can see how we're really messing around with the image. All right, and this one here, I think this one, it drags from both and it creates two, like so. So you know, you can really have a lot of fun with the gradient tool. It also helps, like I did with the black, helps things to pop out as well. So keeping that in mind when you're doing your designs. Like I said, I think this is the last tutorial unless something else presents itself. So good luck with your assignments, and happy Photoshopping.